Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Fallout Shelter. Tonight, this is a really good one, and I really hope people watch this because I'm actually excited to bring this to you guys. And Adam couldn't join us here this evening, so I'm going to fly solo on this one. But he asked me a question that I thought was really interesting. So it's kind of a two-part series. So I will do a second series on this. And it's going to have to do with if I could ask or be interviewed by any person on the planet, living or dead, no matter what timeline, who would it be? But the catch is, it has to be me before I became a successful trader. So what type of advice would I want to ask this person? And then what would I think he would say in response? And then the second part is going to be, once I've made it, so fast forward to now, what advice would I ask him and what do I think he would say? So tonight I've chosen one of my favorite writers and poets, Charles Bukowski. Now, Charles Bukowski, for some of you that don't know who this is, he's a German-born American writer and poet. One of the things that I find very interesting about him is he had horrible acne as a young man. And that molded and shaped him into the person he became. And because he was so, ashamed of it, he turned inward and he became very isolated. But there's a bonus here. Because of that isolation, he decided to work on himself. Now, not all of it turned out positive, okay? So there's always two ways that this can go. This can be very positive or very negative outcomes. And he kind of had a mixture of two. He became a very counterculture, raw, deep writer. And one of my favorite books on the planet is Women by Charles Bukowski. And it's because it's so raw. He writes things that you, like a person would only think. Those kind of like, not so much dark thoughts, but those thoughts that everybody has, whether they want to admit it or not. They have these thoughts that you would never say out loud, even to your best friend on the planet. Like, they're just thoughts that they're strange and they're dark and they're raw, right? Well, he would write that down and publish them. And I respect that. I respect honesty above all else. So this is one of the many reasons why I admire Charles Bukowski. And he was such a raw and deep and honest writer that the FBI actually had a file on him. And they had a file on him for his work in an underground magazine in LA called Notes of a Dirty Old Man. That's great as well for those of you that want to check into this. If you want to talk about raw writing and it's taken from a personal stance, there's another thing too. There's a movie out there from, I believe, the 90s, and it's with Mickey Rourke, and it's called Barfly. And it's basically loosely based on Charles Bukowski. Well, maybe not loosely based, it's based on Bukowski. And he's a complete degenerate alcoholic. Those are not things that I admire about him, but everybody has their flaws, and he wasn't afraid to embrace his flaws, so to speak. And I can respect that. I don't respect people that hide and pretend to be something that they're not. So don't get it twisted. I don't admire him for being a womanizer and an alcoholic. What I do really enjoy about him is how honest he is about it, and he embraces it. And I love that. Like, honesty at all costs, right? And also about, Notes of a Dirty Old Man. I'm just going to give you a little taste, and I'm going to read a quote. And I don't want to bore you guys, but I think this is really interesting, and it's thought-provoking as well. So I'm just going to read this short quote, and then that'll give you an idea of how Bukowski thinks. So, we're all going to die, all of us. What a circus. That alone should make us love each other, but it doesn't. We're terrorized and flattered by trivialities. We are eaten up by nothing. So just a little quote and a little poem that he wrote. He found humor in, like, it's not even sarcastic or anything negative when he says, what a circus. He's literally laughing at We should love each other, but we don't. You know, we get bogged down by shit that doesn't matter. And it's just like we all do right now, especially with social media. A lot of this stuff, you can really get lost in it, and you can get so filled with hate over something that has nothing to fucking do with you. And that's what he's laughing at. That's how it was in the 60s and 70s, and that's how it is now. Everybody thinks that the world has changed so much. It really hasn't. And that's kind of proof of it, right? So that's one thing. Now let's get into the question. So at the beginning, as a struggling trader, what would I want to ask Charles Bukowski? Well, I would ask him, hey, Hank, I want to get into trading. Any piece of advice that you could give me? And I think I know what his response would be. And this is why I admire this man so much. So now I'm going to give you the response of what I believe, how I believe Charles would answer this question. And it's a poem. And it's one of my most favorite poems on the planet. It's raw, it's heartfelt, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it, and you're going to see where this is going. So I'm going to read it. And it's called Going All the Way. If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, and maybe even your mind. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean desertion. It could mean mockery and isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it, despite rejection and the worst odds. And it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There's no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is. Now, if you're a day trader that is going all the way, and you're all in on this, and this doesn't give you fucking chills, and it doesn't give you motivation to keep going, I don't know what is. You know, thinking back to the beginning of this, like I'm fighting back, like getting emotional about this, because that's how I felt. I was mocked and rejected by friends and family, and I believed in myself, and I didn't give a fuck. I didn't fucking care. And I kept going, and I broke through to the other side. And all of those ones that were mocking and talking shit, they all look for handouts now. And that is the biggest reward. Now, it might be a petty reward, but it is the biggest reward. It's one of the best feelings on the planet. And I believe that that's how Charles Bukowski would answer that question. Because if you're going to do this, you got to go all the way, no matter what. It could mean jail. It could mean homelessness. It could mean losing friends and family. Who fucking cares? Go all the way or don't even start. I fucking love that. That's what you need to do, guys. This sums it up so much. And at the beginning of my trading career, I think hearing things like stuff like this, motivation, granted, will only carry you so long. But I think if you find the right motivation and the right fire, it will fuel you forever. The fuel that I used at the beginning of my trading career was I did not, at all costs, want to prove those fuckers right. No way. I'll never give them that. Never. So if you're going to go and you're going to try, go all the way. Adios.